I will tell you, I believe by acting as if we had the money, we got the money in less than 60 days.
Mhm.
So think about in your business how you could act as if, your business is flourishing. What would you do? Maybe, you haven't hired the people that you might if your business was flourishing. Now, you don't have to go about hiring them. Why not just research it? If you might not have a chief marketing officer, but if you did have a business that was flourishing, you would. So research them. Maybe even talk to some, get some good ideas from them even that you would implement yourself. So there's ways you can act as if your business is flourishing before it is, and then watch it flourish in the near future.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Chuck Anderson here, and I'm so glad you're here because, like always, I have another amazing guest for you. But what's really special about this guest is that he's going to help you with a lot of the financial part of your journey. So, I mean, we have all sorts of entrepreneurs on big missions trying to do big things. But, this whole idea of financial freedom and creating financial freedom and is a huge one, and you have to do things in the right way. And if you're struggling with your business, maybe your business has become a full-time job, or it really hasn't produced to your expectations, you really want to lean in and listen to what our guest has to say today, because he is an expert at helping business owners create prosperity. Not just making money through your business, but actual prosperity. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Please welcome Joel Salomon. Joel, welcome to the show.
Chuck, thanks so much for having me. It's just a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure as well. And I know you and I spoke a few weeks ago and had a really great conversation. And I wanted to bring you in because this is such a big issue with entrepreneurs. And, I'm going on to what, like my 30th year of being an entrepreneur. And I've been blessed with some good years where I've got some gray hair. So I'm finally starting to figure things out in terms of our structuring. But when I first started out, I refer to those days as the worst paying job I ever had. And right, because definitely it was the business that owned me and not the other way around. And I know that is an epidemic among entrepreneurs and business owners, not just first time business owners, but ones that this is their second, third, fourth time trying to launch a business, but the same things keep happening. And so it's like, this seems like history repeating itself. So very, very good timing. So I think, Joel, a great place to start is introduce yourself in terms of who you are and what you do. And then we're going to start to connect the dots into this really important topic.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks again for having me. So I call myself a prosperity coach. I teach people how to change their mindset around money from, I can't afford that, money doesn't grow on trees, that's too expensive. At least that's how I grew up. My parents taught me that very well. I shift people's thoughts from that to thoughts of abundance and prosperity. And those kinds of thoughts are not serving you. If you think those thoughts every day, all day, you're focused on lack and scarcity. So number one is the mindset is what I teach. Number two is manifestation techniques, specific techniques that I've used in my career, in my business to create wealth and abundance. And then the third thing, which is quite unusual, is I teach how to invest and use the money that you've manifested. So I'm a former hedge fund manager. I managed $700 million at Citigroup. I then started my own hedge fund for 4 years before shutting it down to do this. And we can talk more about why I did that. But I teach how to invest money if it's stocks or real estate. I'm a chartered financial analyst. And I also teach people how to start and successfully plan and expand their business. Because this is my second. I started my own hedge fund, and then I have this prosperity coaching business. I'm a math guy by background, actuary, credit analyst, equity analyst, and portfolio manager. So when people come to me and they have this great business idea, I say, well, how much money can you make per month doing that? Have you calculated the numbers? Because I'm both a mindset coach and I get into the numbers in the process. You can have an awesome idea. You can have your vision board, all the visualizing, which is what I teach as well. But then if you don't actually have a business that can generate 150, 250, $500,000, if it can only generate $1,000 a month, what are we doing? So you have to have the numbers. You have to have a business plan behind it. So that's the three core concepts. It's mindset, manifesting, and investing.
Mm-hmm. This is what I love about you, Joel, and why I think we got along so well on that first call. I mean, you're a financial or a prosperity coach who's actually a financial guy. Like, you're not someone who took someone's certification program and now you're now you're a prosperity coach, but hedge fund manager and actuary. What a combination. I mean, who else has that combination? It's like, oh yes, invest, but let's also check the numbers to make sure that this is actually feasible and that you can make money here. And what a unique combination of skills. So let's talk a little bit about that, because it sounds like that's part of your journey towards becoming a prosperity coach. So, maybe how did what caused you to kind of start doing this, and what is it about those two careers that really kind of gave you the takeaways that are really helping your clients right now?
So the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing right now is I went to a personal development course. Two things happened that completely changed my life. One was we had a guest speaker speaking about stocks and stock options. And when he spoke about stock options in particular, he made it sound like this is the only way to get rich. He's told 200 people in the room, you don't need much time, you don't need much money. This is how the rich people get rich, and options are essentially risk-free. And I had people tapping me on the shoulder, whispering in my ear, Joel, does this make sense? Are options really riskless? So after he was done, we went out of the auditorium. I told him, please don't do this. He has no idea about you personally. And secondly, he doesn't know anything about your belief. By the way, is rule number 1 in the 9 money rules Millionaires use, my second book. When you believe. So what's your belief that you can become rich using stock options? Now, the second thing that happened at that course was we were given a wooden board 2 inches thick, and we were told we're going to break it with our bare hand. I don't know if you've done this, Chuck, but there was a lot of fear in the room. We literally had to list our next of kin on a permission slip. Just kidding. But there was a lot of fear in the room.
I've been events like that where they really kind of get you wound up before the actual thing happens.
Fear.
Right?
So the exercise was called Obstacles Are Illusions. And on one side of the board, we had to write our biggest obstacle, and the other side, our ultimate goal, which stumped me for a while. And then it finally hit me. Make everyone in this room financially free. And then I broke the board like everyone did in that room. I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. First, the guy was in my head. And I realized if I could ever get up the courage to speak in front of 200 people, because my biggest fear that day was public speaking, I could be of service, not mislead them, and help them know the truth about money. And then the second thing going on in my head was that wooden board staring back at me, make everyone in this room financially free. And it hit me about 4:30 in the morning. I quickly got dressed. I commuted into Manhattan, where my hedge fund was at 54th and 6th. And I sent an email to my investors telling them I'm giving them their money back. I'm shutting down my fund. I figured out my true purpose in life. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And what an unusual story, because how many hedge fund managers do you know that with such ethics, it's like, okay, you know what? I can't do this in good faith. Here's your money back. I'm going to go do something else instead. You just never hear that story, right? So I think it speaks to a lot about you and your belief about money, and also how you take care of your clients.
Absolutely. And also, my heart was hurting. I didn't mention that when this guy was speaking, because I knew these people were being misled. And I know there are many people out there that are doing this. And I just felt like, well, let me throw my hat in the ring and at least tell these people the truth about money. And it's been great to see, like, I had a woman come to me few months ago, and she literally told me she had $90 left in her bank account for the last 6 days of the month. She had to send her daughter back to her parents to make sure her daughter was fed. And so we worked on beliefs. We created some affirmations. We created some habits that she could put into place quickly. And in a very short period of time, her daughter was living back with her. She actually had a full-time job. She even took a vacation, not to the Maldives, but she did take a vacation. And so, like, things can change quickly when you work on your mindset and you believe that things can change quickly. I had a auto mechanic come to me a few years ago, and he was living in scarcity and lack. He had not taken a vacation with his family for 20 years. He was wearing the same shoes for 3 years. He was living in scarcity, lack, worry. But he did have one belief. He believed, this is the difference between this guy and the guy speaking on stage. He believed before he came to me that stocks were the way to become rich. And he said, Joel, I want to learn everything you know about stocks. If you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, so here's 1, here's 10, he was a 10. He had absolute faith that stocks were the way to become rich. I taught him my 5-step proprietary stock screen. He became a master at it. And last year, he manifested or generated in the stock market $2 million.
Wow.
He fired me because he became financially free.
Mm-hmm. Which is a great story to be able to tell as well, right?
Absolutely. So, these kinds of transformation, and the great, and I didn't mention, the greatest thing is now he's not worried, right? He's not living his life every single day worried about money, fearful about what could happen, what could go wrong. Now he's living his life where he thinks about money in terms of expectation and fun. And it's just a complete transformation that can happen in a short period of time when you do affirmations, you have specific techniques that you put into place on a daily basis.
So I know in our audience right now, we have two types of people. They're the ones that are nodding and going, yeah, Joel, exactly. That's what it was for me. And then you're going to get these other ones that are in it right now where things aren't going really well. The manifestation hasn't been wonderful. It seems like there's lack. They're working 10, 12, 14 hours a day in their business trying to get ahead and barely making it, going, you mean all I need to do is manifest this? And there's the whole, talk that goes along with that. And I know that there's been times in my journey where you have your low points and it can be hard to, kind of bring yourself out of that. So, what would you say to that person who's having that rough time in their business and they're looking for, their next steps, their next moves, and how to turn things around?
Well, firstly, I will tell you that I don't know any billionaires who sit at home all day and meditate and visualize. They get out into the world and take action. But I will tell you, it's inspired action, and it's not. The signature of my email, I don't know if you noticed, is don't work hard and become financially free. I don't believe you need to work 18 hours a day, but you need to take some action. You need to take inspired action, and that comes from your higher self. So yes, it's great to meditate and visualize. I do both of those, but I also get out into the world every day and take action like this, right? Getting on a podcast and getting out there into the world and helping people is essential. So think about ways you can take inspired action. So here's one story in the 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use is I had 2 insurance companies who had agreed to give me money orally in 2012. And so I went about my business of starting my company, my hedge fund, Salomon Capital. And I called them up. I moved into my office in Manhattan and I called them up and I said, okay, I'm ready to go. And they both backed out. there was nothing in writing. They had both orally agreed. They both backed out. So I had no pipeline. I was just assuming both of them, were going to give me the money to invest. So what did I do? I did something called acting as if. And it's a very powerful technique. And I do it every day. So what does that mean? It means acting as if I already had the money. So think about in your business, how can you act as if the money's coming in? Now, it doesn't mean that you have to spend money doing it. But what I did was I hired my analyst, even though I didn't have any money coming in. I just told them work from home. We had a morning call where we talked about the stock market every morning for 30 minutes. We went to conferences, even though we didn't have any money to invest. We got invited. We called up the investment banks and said, we're almost ready to go. We want the meetings. And they said, okay, we'll get you invites, even though they didn't get any commissions yet. And I did something even more crazy. I put together a spreadsheet and I calculated the amount of money, quote unquote, we were making every day by the stocks we were betting that were going to go up and the other stocks we were betting that was going to go down. And now I also took action. I went out into the world and I made phone calls. I called other companies, other insurance companies, other potential investors. And I said to them, hey, I'm starting up. I'd love for you to be one of the founding investors and you'll get a nice discount and so on. And I did that. And I will tell you, I believe by acting as if we had the money, we got the money in less than 60 days. Mm-hmm. So think about in your business how you could act as if, your business is flourishing. What would you do? Maybe, you haven't hired the people that you might if your business was flourishing. Now, you don't have to go about hiring them. Why not just research it? If you might not have a chief marketing officer, but if you did have a business that was flourishing, you would. So research them, maybe even talk to some, get some good ideas from them even that you would implement yourself. So there's ways you can act as if your business is flourishing before it is, and then watch it flourish in the near future.
There's a saying that I heard in one of the personal growth events I attended, and that is when your intention is clear, the way forward will appear. And that's really what I heard you just say. It's like, I want a CMO. Can't really afford one right now, but I'm going to start researching. I'm going to maybe even put a job application out. I'm going to start the process. And just by putting forth that intention and focusing your attention there, then results start to happen that you're not even thinking about that help you to make that happen. I did that in my business not that long ago. The new company that we had just started off, we were bootstrapping it, but we needed 3 people. We went out and hired those 3 people, and then within 2 weeks, the clients were there to sustain those 3 people. And so it's something that we use in our business all the time. At the beginning, it seems like, I'll hire someone when I have the money, or I'll do this when I have this. And really what you're saying is it needs to be the other way around.
Yes, act as if, and I say hashtag doubt the doubt. I just got off the call with a client who's in my Money Miracles membership, and he's starting his own business. He just got laid off, but I think the universe gave him a sign he wasn't happy. And he's like, I have a lot of doubt. I have these days where I'm worried I'm going to go down the spiral. And I know it's easy to say and hard to put into action, but hashtag doubt the doubt. When you have your doubt, write down specifically your dream, your purpose, and then have faith in the dream as opposed to having faith in the doubt. A lot of us start getting this faith in the doubt and saying, oh, look at reality. Look what's going on. How could anything get better? And you start having faith in the doubt. So doubt your doubt.
I love that. Hashtag doubt the doubt. So speaking of doubt, and moving forward from that, and also acting as if, so many times as entrepreneurs, we're chronic do-it-yourselfers. I know I certainly was. And, one of the ways that I acted as if was I started partnering with people. I started collaborating with people. And the more I started to partner and the more I started to collaborate, these wonderful new ideas and new energy and used to appear. My mentor used to always say that 1 + 1 = 3. And at first I'm like, what? But you really start to realize what that really means when you get on the same page with someone and you bring to the table what you bring and they bring to the table what they bring, but together it equals more than the sum of all parts. And so partnership and collaboration, needless to say, is a big part of my business. I'm curious, Joel, how has that played a role in your business?
Yeah, no, I partner with a lot of different people. I outsource a lot of things. I have a virtual assistant that I use for videos. I have my website guru who does it. I actually learned how to do a lot on the website because I read this book that talked about, learn how to do everything in your business and then you'll be able to oversee others easily. So I figured out how to do WordPress and all that for the website. And then I hired a consultant to do the rest. And so he's now doing every update on the website. I have a strategy coach and a marketing coach who does a lot of the content creation for me, and I post. So it's just figuring out what is your strengths and what you like to do, and then outsourcing the rest. And collaborating in particular and partnering. I have a woman, which it's going to sound unusual, but I have a yoga and meditation teacher that I collaborate with, who I teach a course called Infinite Peace and Prosperity. So she teaches the infinite peace part. I teach the infinite prosperity part. And it's a 9-10 week course, which I think is going to shorten up. The next time we'll probably split it up into 2 4-week courses. And it's based on the 9 money rules millionaires use. And she does what we call a centering, to get people to get to a place where they can really take in one of the rules that I'm teaching for that week. And so it's been a great partnership. She, it's yin and yang, as she'll say. I'm the math guy, I'm the process guy. I am spiritual as well, but she is, over here. I'm making my way towards her, right? And but we it's a great collaboration. She reached out to me right after my book came out and said, what are you going to do with it? This is obviously a course. And I said, it is? And she said, yes. And she said, can I help you create one? So we've been co-facilitating this the last 2.5 years. It's been a great partnership.
I think that's a great example, because if you really think about it, her on her own would not be doing that. And you on your own would not be doing it maybe in the way that you just described. You might be teaching a class on the nine things, right? But maybe not in this way that you're able to create something new that wouldn't otherwise exist. And it's got this uniqueness to it that you bring what you're best at and she brings what she's best at. And now this really cool thing emerges that could only exist because of the two of you, which is awesome. And that's that 1 + 1 = 3 thing that my mentor was talking about.
Absolutely. I truly agree that the benefit from this course is so much more powerful than me just doing it myself or she just doing it herself.
Absolutely. So we've talked about money, prosperity. We've talked about what pushes it away. We talked about acting as if. We've talked about collaboration. And through this whole conversation, Joel, there's been this underlying theme of personal growth, personal development, which I am a big believer in. And so I've got a couple of questions about that I wanted to bring in. And, one of the things in my business, I've mentioned my mentor a couple of times. I've been blessed with many good mentors who appeared at the right time when I needed them. I was probably acting as if and attracted them or became aware of them. They may have always been there. But I'm really blessed to have had that leadership and that mentorship in my life pointing me in the right direction. So I always like to find out from my guests, who has been the most influential in your life? Who's been the mentor that, or leader, or someone and maybe someone others can check out, that has helped you, point you in the right direction?
So Mike Dooley is someone who has definitely helped me these last years as I started my prosperity coaching business. He's a motivational speaker. He's a New York Times best-selling author of a book called Infinite Possibilities. He's spoken globally, and he writes a daily email called Note from the Universe. And Note from the Universe has been going out for 23 years now, daily, and it now goes to 1.2 million people globally. It's a nice, pithy. He's a poet laureate, I call him, and it's pithy, sentence or two or five, nice, inspiring note in the morning from the universe. And so he actually certifies people to teach infinite possibilities. So I got certified by him in 2017. And so I've taught a large number of people the key concepts from his book. And so he's been a great mentor when I have questions about, the business or going in a specific direction. He's done it. He's been there. He went from zero to, a very large number over the years. And so, when I was just starting out and my biggest fear in life was public speaking, I said, what do I do? I know I have to speak. I know I have to get out there, but I dislike it immensely. And he recommended joining Toastmasters. So I credit him with helping me overcome my biggest fear in life. I joined Toastmasters and spoke at that group in Midtown Manhattan over 100 times. And, practice makes perfect. And I say, step into your fear. Courage is just doing what you are fearful about over and over and over again till you no longer are fearful of it. So, yeah, he's helped me a lot in those kinds of ways. He recommended where to speak as well after I spent those 2 years becoming an adequate speaker. He recommended different venues and how to go about doing it. And as he says, pick the least sucky path.
The least sucky path. I think that's really good advice, actually.
So like you're doing different avenues, you're speaking at different places, and you're getting some traction here, you're getting some traction here, and you're not getting any traction here. Just ignore that one.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? And maybe there's a reason why that one is sucky. It's trying to steer you away from it. And it's funny because even studying people like Deepak Chopra, where he would probably not use the word sucky, but in his own very highly super intellectual way is saying the same thing, and that it doesn't have to be hard. You don't always have to pick the hard path, to success. And I think I like, avoid the part that's sucky better. Hashtag
least sucky path.
Exactly. I love that. And, Mike Dooley's amazing. I like that recommendation. I remember first seeing him. One of my mentors was Bob Proctor, and he was in the movie The Secret, kind of accidentally. He didn't plan to be. He was in it very, just like he was in the right place at the right time. I mean, maybe he was all meant to be there, but he was like, hey, we're interviewing this thing. You want to jump on there and do it? And then watching that movie is where I first was introduced to Mike Dooley, and because I didn't know his message, but he's got a great way of delivering, and I think a message that's helpful for everyone. So I no doubt see why that has been influential. Now the other part of growth, of course, and knowledge is books. Now you're the author of 3 books, and I'll get you to share in a moment. But I want to ask all my guests, what has been either the most influential book for you, or a must-read book that you recommend that all of our listeners checks out and reads for themselves as well?
So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is kind of my Bible. I read it twice a year. And every time I read it, I get something new out of it. And I know the book hasn't changed, but I've changed. And so it's interesting because I'll be reading it for the 22nd time and I'll be like, wait, I don't remember that sentence being in there. Wow, that was mind blowing, you know? And I was like, oh, it was always there. It just, I'm at a different point of view and I was meant to learn that lesson this time I read it.
Yeah, I love that recommendation. And, I mentioned Bob Proctor. He spent a lifetime studying Think and Grow Rich. In fact, he had one of the older leather-bound copies, and it was falling apart, and he had it held together with rubber bands. And and he would study. He would read a chapter, or not a chapter, a paragraph, and just study that paragraph. Sometimes he would say he would even pick a sentence and then just study that sentence over and over and over again, because he made it his life's mission to understand it at the deepest level possible. And like you said, it's like, just because you've read it before doesn't mean that you've got it right. And it's like the words may not be different, but you are. And so different things are going to get in each time. So I love that. Now, you've written 3 books. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Bob, I just read one of his last book before he passed, and he had a great comment in there that most people read a book, put it down, they say, I'm done. But we're not taught to study the book. And so he would recommend, he actually had 5 or 6 recommendations in his last book. And he said, study them, read them, and then read them again, and read them again, and read them again. Because just like Think and Grow Rich, you're going to get something different out of it. And if they're really awesome, powerful books with some really good messages, you may not get the full message the first time.
Well, absolutely. And, I think that was what was so special about his leadership, because he wouldn't just read books, he would study them, and he wanted to understand them at such a deep level. And then, that elevates everyone that he's teaching as well. And so, that was something that was really, special about what he taught. And those books. Now, speaking of books, I know you've written 3 books. So, tell everybody about, your 3 books, and we'll make sure that we put links to them here in our show notes.
So my first book was Mindful Money Management. It was really a memoir of my career and my lessons learned as a hedge fund manager. I'm more proud of my second book, The 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, which is actually goes through 9 specific rules I learned as a hedge fund manager. And so you can actually apply these rules. We've talked about some of them. When you believe is an important one, rule number 1. And my third book is a book called Infinite Love and Money. I co-wrote with Mollie Singh, who's a relationship coach. And the idea of that book was to end divorce caused by money. You probably know, Chuck, the number 1 and number 2 reason why people end relationships is money. And so I had an instance where a client that I was coaching, just him, we got to a point where we started talking about budgets and budgeting. And I said, we should bring in your wife at this point to discuss this. And he said, no. I take care of all the money issues. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And I said to myself, this can't be good. They're not communicating about money at all. And so I was jogging the next morning and I was, this is my next book. This is an important topic. And I researched it. There's very few books on, relationships and money, like how to talk about money, how to communicate it. We created 7 money personality types. So you can do a survey in the book and see which money personality type you are. And then we go through and say, okay, if you're this money personality type and your spouse or partner is this one, how can you adjust, to shift more towards them and they shift more towards you? There's exercises in every single chapter. It's a fun book. It's an interactive book, not a, this is another book where you shouldn't just read it once. You should, it's a growth book where you continue to read. And we recommend every 3 to 6 months reviewing the book and the exercises.
Wow, that sounds like it's saving marriages as well, which is amazing, and saving relationships. So we'll make sure that the links to all of that and are down below the show notes. So on the video, right beneath the video, show notes on podcast, website, we link wherever it is. It's here somewhere. You'll see a link. So Joel, thank you so much for, sharing all of this with us today. And I know that we've only scratched the surface of this amazing topic, but hopefully our listeners are inspired to think about things differently and to seek out help or a collaboration or a partnership or whatever it is. If you're in a situation where things aren't going the way you want them to, or it has been a struggle, then there's you're one shift away from and looking at this in a new way where you don't have to necessarily struggle with that. And as Joel said, choose the less sucky way, right? So if you're inspired by that and you'd like to learn more about Joel and reach out to Joel and talk about how he could help you, Joel, let them know where they can do that.
So my website is salamour.com. It's named after my daughters, Lauren and Morgan. So it's SALAUR for Lauren, MOR for Morgan.com. I do one-on-one coaching. I do group courses, and I also have a membership that's open every few months. And that membership is very low priced. The goal is to get people to financial freedom as quickly as possible without making them worried about how am I going to pay for this membership? So it's $59 a month for basically all the content I created over the last 5 years. And we have a great, awesome group of people, supportive, like-minded, who are supporting each other in a private Facebook group. We have accountability partners, and we even have rewards where you could win 3 months of free coaching.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Well, we'll make sure that the link to all of that is here as well. And I highly recommend that you do reach out to Joel and see how his programs can help you. And so with that, Joel, thank you so much for being our guest on here. And, as we kind of bring this episode to a close, I'd like to ask you if you had one last piece of advice for our audience, what would you tell them?
Well, it's a quote from Think and Grow Rich. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring themselves to believe, they can achieve. Whatever the mind of humans can conceive and bring themselves to believe, they can achieve.
That quote stood out for me as well. All the times I've read Think and Grow Rich, and it is so, so true. And, there was a time in my life where I didn't believe that was true, but there comes a point where it's self-evident. So, if you're in that struggle right now and you're listening to us talk, instead of rolling your eyes, reach out to us for help, because we were both blessed to have people help us in our lives as well. And that's really how you turn things around. So, Joel, thank you. And to our audience, thank you. And if you're inspired, please reach out to Joel for help. And you can always also tune in to our next episode. We'll have another amazing guest. But in the meantime, keep moving forward and never, ever give up on your mission, especially if it's an important one. We know you have great ideas and the world desperately needs them. So keep moving forward, bring that into the world, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.